Alright, so today we're gonna be taking a look at the full kit for Bay Goddess Mary. In my last video, we only had the chance to take a look at a short description for her kit, but recently they actually gave us the full kit for her, so we're gonna be taking a look at what she has to offer and if she is worth pulling for from a meta perspective. With that being said, if you find this video useful, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and let's get on with the content. So first off, let's go over the basic information. So as you all know by now, Bay Goddess Mary is going to be a support character, a sniper rifle user, and a water type NIKKE. And as you can see, she is actually confirmed to be a burst type 1 character. This to me is sort of a bad thing, because when you take a look at the roster for our burst 1 characters, a lot of them are actually really good, to the point where I would say that the top tier ones are actually irreplaceable. So characters like Dorothy, Litter, and Pepper are really good burst 1 characters, so it can be hard to recommend pulling for Bay Goddess Mary if you're pulling for meta, if she is not that good compared to those characters. So the only way to find out is to go over her skills and see what she has to offer. So first up, we have her skill 1, Seaside Sunshine. This one is a passive skill that will activate after entering full burst, and this ability will affect all your allies. How this works is that this is going to ramp up the more times you meet the skill condition. So the more times you enter full burst, the better the effects that you will get. Using this once recovers 1.05% of the caster's max HP every 1 second for 5 seconds. Using this twice recovers 3.69% on top of the 1.05% from the first effect. And then using this 3 times or more recovers 6.86% of the caster's max HP every 1 second for 5 seconds. So this ability is really good because it's basically healing for all of your characters. And you don't really need to worry about the 1.05% at the beginning, because for most cases, you don't actually need that much healing at the beginning of the fight. So when the time comes that you actually need healing, you probably already have hit the 3 times mark, so you already have that maximum value for healing. And then moving on, we have our skill 2, Waves Kiss the Feet. This one is a passive skill that activates whenever Bay Goddess Mary uses her burst. And it's also important to note that this ability will only apply to your water type allies. So the same thing with their first ability, this is also going to ramp up the effects the more times you meet the skill condition. So the first time Bay Goddess Mary uses her burst, this is going to increase the damage as strong element for your water code NIKKEs by 20.85% for 3 seconds. And using this twice will have the same effect, but this time, this is going to increase it further by 13.88% for 5 seconds. And then using it 3 times or more is going to add on 8.36% more, and then this value is going to last for 10 seconds. So let's break down this ability one by one. So the main thing you want to focus on are the skill conditions and the limitations. So for the first one, this is only going to affect your water type characters. So because of that, if you want to get the most value out of Bay Goddess Mary, then you need to make sure that at least your main DPS characters are water type NIKKE. So you are looking at characters like Privity, Brid, Vesti, just to name a few. And another thing to pay attention to is the damage as strong element, because this means that this buff is only effective if your enemy is actually weak against water. So enemies like Nihilister and Blacksmith. So this ability only affecting water type NIKKE and only being effective against bosses that are weak to water makes it very limiting. But actually, that is not all, because when you pay attention to the durations for the buffs, each of them actually have a separate duration. So the first one will only last for 3 seconds, the next one will last for 5, and then the next one is going to last for 10 seconds. This is important to know because this means that you only have a few characters who can actually get the most out of this buff. The main reason is because the first value is the highest value on this skill, and it will only last for 3 seconds. So after 3 seconds, you will basically lose half of the buffs from this ability. So whenever you are setting up your teams, it will most likely be optimal for you to use a character who can use a burst that deals one big instance of damage. So characters like Viper and Brid, because those two characters, especially Brid, has a very high scaling on their burst. And because their burst only deals one big instance of damage, it's most likely that you will be able to use their burst with this buff still on the character. So if you want to get the most value out of this buff, then you would want to set up your team similar to that. And next up, we have our burst, Tranquil Waters. This one has a 20-second cooldown, and it only affects your water code allies. Basically, it will increase their attack by 23.23% for 3 seconds, on top of healing your whole team based on 27.87% of her max HP for 10 seconds. So just like the first buff on her skill 2, the attack buff from this is only going to last for 3 seconds. So that further reinforces the fact that you need to use a character that can do one big instance of damage when they use their burst. And when it comes to the healing, this is actually really good, because if your Bay Goddess Mary is anything close to mine, I'm expecting mine to have around 1 million HP, so that's around 280,000 healing whenever you use her burst. so that's really good. And overall, I think that she can be a good character depending on what you're looking for. If you're only looking for a healer, then I can see her working really well because her first ability looks really good and it ramps up really fast, and her burst actually scales really well, so I can see her working really well as a healer. But if you're looking for a buffer, then I would say that you would want to go for a different character. Because for this one, yes, she does have pretty good scaling on her skills, but the big problem is that her skills are very limited because you can only apply the buffs on water type allies, and then for her second skill, the damage a strong element will actually only work for enemies that are weak against water. So just by looking at that, it already limits your options on which characters you can actually use. And moving on, once you actually pull for Bay Goddess Mary, what will your teams look like? So as you can see from my example, I mostly have water type NIKKE so that I can get the most out of Bay Goddess Mary's second skill. So for this one, I'm using the regular Mary as like a placeholder for Bay Goddess Mary. So she's gonna be the burst 1 character, and then I have Viper as my burst 2, and Viper pairs really well because she actually has some pretty decent buffs when it comes to her kit. So at the beginning of the fight, she gives attack, which is really good. She also increases hit rate, and then more hit rate from her second skill. Plus, she's also going to shred the defense for the enemies. And another reason why she pairs well with Bay Goddess Mary is because her burst actually deals 1 big damage. So Viper will be able to use her burst before the 3-second buff ends. And then for the next one, I have Brid for the same reason why I went for Viper, because they both have burst abilities that deal 1 big damage before the 3-second buff ends. And then for the next character, I have Privity, not only because she is a water type character, but also because she is just overall a really good unit. But I'm not exactly sure if all the hits from her burst will actually land before the 3-second buff ends. But we'll have to see once I try out Bay Goddess Mary in the game. And for this one, I went for Drake just because of the buff whenever you enter full burst. But actually, I will instead go for Neon, and I will use this as a placeholder for the new Neon variant. Because the new Neon variant is also a water type character, so she will absolutely benefit from the buffs from Bay Goddess Mary's skill 2. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have for this video. Bay Goddess Mary is looking to be a really good healer for a lot of teams, and a really good support for very specific teams. Let me know if you're excited for this character and if you're pulling for her. And as always, if you found this video useful, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.